the draft is ready, so we'll see which heroes they start to ban first. I think it's definitely targeted
Yep.
for both sides.
Mhm.
Kalea, Kimmy's, Lucas's would be taken off, especially the chip.
Yes, actually, right. To be honest, Chip hasn't. We thought he was quite broken, but once you
Mm.
start seeing Chip getting leaked in, I feel like some of the teams are starting to realize that it's basically very easy to deal with, right? Chip actually only had like what 72% bans, 27 bans out of your 31 games. So yeah, it's quite high on the bans, but when the time when he finally get leaks through, he only has like what a 50% win rate. He
Mm.
only wins half the games that he was picked. So yeah, but his global is something that we have to take a look out for. So King's Vanguard, if you notice, Coach Zhu H identified that, took away the lawyer, took away the chip as well. These are two massive globals that Zhu H was able to take away.
On the other side of the table, Carrot taking out the Lucas, Matilda, and the Kalea, all very annoying heroes to take down, especially the Matilda, knowing that Bao was able to play that Matilda to its maximum effectiveness. So, first pick on the tables, Kimmy's still wide open. Is there anything in the second week that you see with Kimmy that maybe teams are learning to, breeze through
Yep.
Kimmy pick?
You know what? Kimi actually is surprisingly has a 83%
Because
first
of the
pick.
first week, it was 100%.
Yeah, it was basically almost first pick.
Oh, the
but
box
all
has
of a
actually
sudden,
picked up
yeah,
again.
all of a sudden, because after week 2, I think week 1, you guys were the first one who witnessed the Baxia Estes wombo
Yes.
combo. That's something that some of the challenger teams are starting to use against each other. And now you can see that the teams are actually adapting to the MPL Singapore kind of meta, right? That the challenger stage brought into, and that's, I would say, it's massive adaptation.
Interesting. So this is the first time that I'm casting the Boxer game. I'm happy to see the Ubi strategy being into light again, but
Yep.
there's a lot of things that are changing in this current meta, and think teams are still testing things out. We really need a hero that could split push and force the side lanes.
Definitely.
A lot of teams are building towards that pick off kind of strategy with a added member to go towards that long lanes to try to maintain lane priority, maintain lane pressure. But if you throw all your eggs in one basket, knowing how Evil likes to operate around, remember back then they used to be called the Death Ball
Yeah.
team. So very, very heavy in team fights. They'll pick up the Badang and the Farsa, very team fight oriented. On the other side of the table, responding with the Kimmy and the Irithel for KGV.
I like what King's Vanguard has selected for themselves. One, they have got decent, what we mentioned, lane priority by having Baxia to be able to rotate around. Usually you see that in the form of the Moscows or the Fanny. Baxia is coming out as one of the flavors that do so, right? And Evo, I love what I'm seeing from Coach Carrot right here. Now, the problem is for the past 2 weeks, they have been playing a bit of a very different composition. Usually you expect Team Evo to really go in for this massive death ball, like what you mentioned, the team fight magic, right?
Yep.
But it's all of a sudden they start playing a lot of pickoffs. And now, if you notice how Team Evo is drafting, this looks like and gearing up to be a massive clash composition. Unga munga, what Abstract like to say, a massive ultimate kind of clash
We
comp.
will see atomic bombs exploding left, right, and center all over the map, especially with the X-Borg pick. A direct counter for the Baxia, dealing true damage and just melting that armor down. But second phase off that ban, both teams are still lacking marks, or for the side of Evil though, lacking a marksman, lacking a mage, banning out the Angela to not giving over to the side of KGV. But I think Baxia still has flexibility. You can play the Baxia in the roam or the jungle.
Or the EXP lane that Utah played, right?
Or the EXP lane.
Yeah.
Adamir brought that out before.
So that's pretty interesting. But if you notice how Team Evo is banning this, like how Carrot is going for, I think they're sensing like a little Uwe strat, right? Imagine an Angela on top of the Baxia that is rolling around, or even a Nestis, right? Now you got to ask the question, King's Vanguard, that first pick is also very interesting, right? Are you going to be bringing this Baxia? It's so flexible.
Yeah.
And that's the power of your blue first pick, right? You need somebody that's flexible. Baxia fits that role. And now instead of going for the SS man, Team Evo is like, you know what, I'm going to take away Super Ryan's high loss as well for this one.
Interesting. I thought they would ban out either the Estes or the Florin.
Yeah, me too.
Because it's like very strong enchanter heroes, and all they need is just pure sustain throughout a lot of these team fights. And in a battle of like a head-to-head with a Death Ball versus Death Ball, the one that stays alive the longest actually wins out. But last ban though, that could be a marksman ban. I'm just
Definitely.
thinking like, what other marksman is there to play? Because it's like you're just taking out all the core marksmen. It's interesting that they ban out the Granger because the Earthbound is basically a direct lane-to-lane counter. But what is your thoughts on all of this?
Apart from that, I think right now what King's Vanguard is looking out for is DPS is very is a very big problem to them, right? They cannot deal with DPS. So I'm also agreeing. Granger is also one of them that could snipe them down, poke them before they go in for these massive team clashes, and also still perform quite well in these team clashes, right? So Team Evil, they will go for something like a third best. Bruno, I personally feel like it's not exactly like a DPS kind of hero. Hero is kind of more like a slightly big bursty, does a lot of big damage, but not exactly the DPS that you expect to deal with Ube composition or a potential tank composition that King's Vanguard is throwing at Team Evil.
Bruno, super irritating in the late game, especially with the Haas Claws and the lifesteal that it provides and the range that the Malefic Gun brings to the table as well. So definitely something to look out for. On the other hand, though, Coach Joel picks up the Hanzo and the Cho. So it will be the Boxia in the EXP or Roam. It's still very flexible. You could pick the Cho in EXP or Roam as well. So we'll leave that to Coach Joel's hands. Last pick though, that's going to be a Roam position. I think if you pick up Enchanter here, it kind of works well with the rest of the team.
You know what could be also very interesting coming out of Team Evil? Yeah, they can drop an assassin right here, then after that bamboozle all of us into like, Xbox can go in EXP. So I really like this draft pick, right? Like from the side of Drew H, they kind of baited Carrot into banning more Ube, and then after that, boom, Hanzo Assassin, let's go. And then after that, from the side of Team Evil, right, it seems like they're setting it up for a potential Xbox jungle. Boom, Fanny. That provides you with cosmetic plays, but that's in the hands of Vincent. Will he be able to execute that for Fanny in a better position? Because from what we've been seeing for the past 2 weeks, Vincent feels like he's more comfortable in more of a utility jungle kind of style.
Yeah. But it doesn't really show right there. I don't know if it's like a graphic error or something, but
yeah, we'll see. We'll confirm.
We'll see. If it's like a Bruno jungle, I'm super,
no way,
surprised.
no way. The Bruno is definitely going into the gold lane.
Okay. Let's talk about like targets, especially for the Hanzo. Easy targets onto the Farsa, easy targets onto the Bruno. How do you deal with the Hanzo though?
I think it's very hard to deal with the Hanzo, right? Like Hanzo's main magic power is that Hanzo can just bypass your tanks. You can have a very solid front line, because that's how King Vanguard like to play, right? King Vanguard's like to put a solid front line in front of Luxionstein, right? But now that Hanzo bypasses that front line to deal with Luxionstein. So that's what I love coming out from this. This Hanzo pick, right? Sorry, it's the other way around.
Yeah,
to deal with the Bruno, right?
To deal with Ven.
Yeah, correct. It's very hard to kite against a Hanzo as a Bruno, but so I love how this Hanzo basically executes how this Hanzo would turn out.
Actually, it kind of pairs well with the Boxia as well. Boxia is very all in. You roll yourself into the back line, try to disrupt it a little bit, try to burn all the purifies, all the skills, and then Hanzo swoops in, tries to get in, come in for the cleanup. So I think really solid kind of picks over there.
Or on top of that, Hanzo can be the one that baits out all the skills.
Oh yeah.
The best part is
non-committal.
Non-committal, right?
He doesn't actually die.
He doesn't actually die, and Boxia could just go in total poisons, and then after that, just to do a lot of damage in the backline. So that's something I'm definitely loving from the side of King's Vanguard. I cannot put a finger where I like what kind of this team composition. I personally feel like both these two teams really selected the best form of roster for each of their teams.
Yeah. To be honest though, I think the Fanny is still a little bit risky though, because it's a very high gamble. If you scale and snowball well through the early game, it kind of makes sense for the rest of the team. Then you can send a Fanny into the off lanes, because you know for sure that King's Vanguard is playing a deathball composition. So they fight together as 5-8 strong together. If you split them apart, that's where they suffer. That's where the chink in the armor comes into play.
Yeah, and apart from that, I think the Fanny was a very good response over the side of the Baxia, because remember, Moscow was banned, so you don't really have these kind of cross-map plays. So the next best thing is the Fanny, right? So basically, the Fanny was able to react against what Baxia wants to do. So I really like this roster, like what I mentioned. It's just a lot of things that we can definitely talk about. And apart from the fact the Fanny can also do side lane push, the Fanny is a good answer over to Kimi. Burst the Kimi down before Kimi does massive DPS damage, then bug out.
Actually, speaking of which, Kimi does have the traction pulse as well. Very non-committal ultimate. It's basically like a invisible Tigreal kind of thing. We throw that gun, a long-range Tigreal. Yes, that's it. So I think there is a lot of ways that King's Vanguard can layer things out. That's why I really prefer King's Vanguard's kind of composition right now. It will be difficult to break through to the Hanzo, albeit Hanzo is very vulnerable in his own jungle.
Definitely.
So I think if Evil finds a way to break into the jungle, tries to be a little bit more aggressive in the early game, that might be able to work and then
Yep.
get them the dubs.
And that's in the hands of Powerful, right? At the
Yes.
Badang, are they going to start invading? I think that's also one question, right? Vanny can also start having some kill pressure at level 2 when she unlocks level 2. Hanzo, on the other hand, still needs a little more time, needs to get to level 4 before he unlocks his full potential. So maybe you're expecting a bit more aggression coming off of Vincent and Powerful together tag team. And don't forget, Xbox can wave clear very quickly against as compared to a Cho. Maybe you start to see a lot more action around the EXP lane at the start.
I like that you brought up the Cho because there's a lot of rotational kind of momentums that Cho as well as Baxia actually brings to the table. When you say aggression, you have the Fanny, you have the Badang actually going into the jungles, and then Hanzo is just wide and open. I don't think it's going to be that easy because Baxia is going to be always right there.
Yep.
Cho definitely going to proxy the wave and start farming that jungle, trying to be counter-aggressive into the Fanny, the face of Fanny. So I think for both sides, they do have their sort of like game plan. For Evo though, very late game. For King's Vanguard, early game as well as high rotational pressure.
Yeah, I think King's Vanguard definitely popped off in the mid.
Yeah.
Level 4 is where they pop up. That's where Hanzo's ultimate starts coming in. Baxia's ultimate starts coming in. Aerithel also reached its power spike at level 4 as well with the giant crossbow, right?
Yeah.
And after that, Cho. So you're expecting a lot more fights that will go into favor from the side of King Vanguard, especially the first and second turtle. But for the side of Team Evo, though, I think if you go towards the later parts of the game, yes, the Farsa is a very solid, high ground defense that helps them to basically hunker around the base. Hopefully, King's Vanguard making mistakes before Team Evo strikes.
Yeah,
that's one way to do it.
Actually, I like that you bring up the artillery kind of mages because there's a lot of teams that actually pick up the Juicin. Juicin was wide open in the entirety of the draft, but no one picked it up. They opt to go for the Farsa instead to counteract the Kimi, or actually they picked the Farsa up first. Then King's Vanguard actually picked up the Kimi. Is there a lot of teams actually using artillery mages at this meta to counteract the team Kimi, and how does it play into the dynamic, you think?
I personally feel like in the mid, Farsa has definitely more bursting power.
More range as well,
I think. More bursting and more range. I think
wave clear much faster. You don't rely on your passive to just get that, that split. Yeah.
Kimi, for Kimi to work, you need to basically stay on the target as long as possible, and that's where the damage starts to rank up a lot, right? But if the Farsa, for example, in the hands of Sayla, was able to outbully the Kimi in the early game, in the mid, just start shoving her away, and then after that, she loses a lot of farm. It's the same situation that we've seen before between Curtisi and one of the Vexana players, right? Like, Farsa just shove Vexana away, cannot farm. Kimi without items, still not too shabby either, because, Kimi's ultimate can potentially make a massive change. So, yeah, definitely in the mid lane, I want to see more rotations. I feel like in terms of rotation, both of these two teams have it. But I really cannot point a finger which one has the better rotation, because it feels like both of these two teams are jam-packed load of mobility.
Yeah, we'll have to see the execution, because wings by wings, I'm not counting that out. Like, Farsa can be anywhere on that map.
Sure.
But the Badang, though, I think the fact of the matter is, I think Badang has a couple different ways to play it. You can be defensive or aggressive, depending on how you want it. If you want to be aggressive, it kind of rewards you in the early game, super fast, because you can set up a lot of team fight pressures, and pairs well with the Fanny. You have the wall spam as well.
Yep.
So hoping to see that coming from Powerful and how he plays this around. But I like that you're super smart in all of this kind of like.
Nah, stop glazing
things.
me, Churros.
Man.
Stop glazing me, Churros. Not on stream. Off stream.
Hey, we'll stop the glaze. We'll go back into the game. Welcome to the Land of Dawn, the first game of day 5 of today. The seeded stage ends in today.
Yeah, and something interesting, right? Super Ryan is on the Baxia, going up against the Xborg instead. And this is something that allows you to be very, like, you don't expect a Baxia to basically roam all the way down to the gold lane. So Liechtenstein and Ven are super safe in that lane. That's definitely going to be a very neutralized lane, because both of these two heroes rely on the hard score so easily and so much in terms of the playstyle. So power spike, that's going to be a neutral lane. The bottom lane, however, like what I mentioned, expect more rotations and also action around the EXP lane. Challenger teams, right?
So we're going to look at a community teams matchup.
Correct.
Oh, man.
So from the side of Team Evil, they won only one game against the Challenger team. So you can see from there on, they definitely feels like if Team Evil drops down all the way to the Challenger stage, they are definitely going to be, you're definitely going to see them in the last chance qualifier. And that's the saving grace. You still have a last chance qualifier.
At least you have a last chance qualifier. So jumping back into the game, man, it feels like it's been forever, but both teams are still 5-5. It's like left and right for both of these teams. Back and forth, team fights, no one's actually falling. You got a top side bank getting pushed down on that T2 from the Lord, though.
Yep. I like how the Evo, even though they're struggling in terms of these team fights, it's still like as long as they keep up the turrets up, like what I mentioned, the defense is still solid, right? So which means that it's actually King's Vanguard's side now. They need to basically trade. Even after killing somebody, you really have to start getting any of these objectives. Turtles, yes, technically speaking, these are good objectives to take, but they're not permanent damage. We're looking at permanent damage in the form of turrets.
If we're talking about a range game, King's Vanguard actually using the skills to poke out and chip down onto Team Evo's members. Vincent, getting a little bit of intelligence onto that bear.
Oh, seems like they're going to
Super
go
Ryan
for it.
starting things off. You get a fair airstrike. Lord down low. Get a retribution down onto
Ooh,
Vincent. Evo
Vincent.
takes up the Lord, but here comes Nandes trying to find a target onto Ben though. Takes him out in the process. There's two members left, Sayla and Vincent against the world as Nandes still trying desperately to chase down Sayla. Will be able to take him out before going back to his real body. Nandes is just so annoying. The only saving grace is Evo's Lord is marching up on that top side.
It's so funny, Churros, the fact that King's Vanguard looks so strong in terms of these team fights, but Vincent is going around just assassinating and getting these critical objectives, like for example the Lord and the Turtles, especially this Lord, which is very crucial as they go on the more of offense. Let's take a look. Ben is trying to burst it down. Super Ryan coming for the flank at the same time. The feather airstrike from the side of Sayla. That one poke onto Lucianstein. Lucianstein doesn't even dare to stand forward. This is what we're talking about as well. Nandes, the timing of that ghost must be impeccable. It seems like Vincent was there right there on time, ready to land the retribution right before Nandes does.
Oh man, it's so difficult because the team fight has been split so much. First, Super Ryan comes in with layered in, Bao goes in as well, and then Evo is just messed up. They don't know, they're confused. They don't know who to go for specifically. And you have Vincent driving down on the mid side, trying to desperately pick up all the scraps. But actually, at the end of the day, Evo actually equalized the scoreline. Right now, gold is equalized, 32 to 32K. King's Vanguard just slightly up ahead. I think that Lord was definitely the saving grace for Evo.
Yeah, and don't forget, Evo, even though in terms of gold, they're equal, they have a lot more real estate to work with, right? It is now King's Vanguard that they have to protect and defend their bases instead. Their turrets are dropping like flies. King's Vanguard is unable to convert kills into objectives.
There's only one crowd control in Evo, and that's the wall that Powerful is going to build. Oh, Vincent down low, actually taking a huge chunk out of Nandes with the dragon, kicks him straight into the wall. Lucianstein picks up the kill onto Vincent, though. Evo losing out one member. They have the numbers advantage. Super Ryan picking up the pace, picking up the tempo. They might want to go for this one again. They touch, and they go. But you look left, you look right. Everywhere you look, there's King's Vanguard. If only a career path was this easy.
Definitely. But Team Evo, on the other hand, losing Vincent, yeah, I thought that they can actually basically take something out of this trade. But if you notice also, King's Vanguard started upping the aggression, right? Taking down bottom lane turret using Nandes.
Oh, that's the fist crack onto Super Ryan. Won't be able to escape this one, but buying a lot of time for King's Vanguard to get that retreat. They're blocked by their own wall. Evo, they're crumbling.
Yeah, the anti-synergy coming off from the Badang is actually coming into play, right? Yes, Powerful is able to find a massive wall to trap people, but at the same time, they're also trapping their own team members from stepping forward.
Oh, nice fist crack onto Bao. Pops in the immortality. Might be able to escape this one. Not until Ben actually bursts that guy down. Gear. Seeks out where Nandes is.
Oh, man.
Able to just sneakily dash away from harm's way.
Yep.
King's Vanguard just playing it so safe and so strategically. Lord spawning up though. Evo, make a beeline for it.
Yeah, definitely. One member down for the side, King's Vanguard. Team Evo is definitely going to take this advantage unless Nandes has something else to do. He could go into the Ghost form to basically try to steal for this retreat. But of course, we have to see how this Lord dance go.
Evo all in position. King's Vanguard looking for an angle, looking for an approach. Super Ryan seeks out information. Nandes goes into Ghost form. Though, locks under the wall.
Oh.
Huge play by Powerful though. Super Ryan trying to go for the backline, taking a lot of hits from Ben. Underneath the wall though, for the airstrike, trying to keep him up alive. Ben takes left to stay down, but the Lord goes to the hands of Vincent though. Bao, nothing he can do with it. In the back line, though, tries to take out Nandes. Nandes chases Vincent down, takes him out of the process, but it's a 4v1. Evo ramping up the tempo.
Yep, that's the teamfight magic that we all wanted from the side of Team Evo. King's Vanguard, yes, this is Nandes. This is a very hungry and also greedy kind of assassin, but if you notice how King's Vanguard is playing, they're unable to convert kills.
Hanzo against the world. Will he be able to do it? One goes down, no minions at all.
Yeah,
Nandes, though, one more hit. Evo takes game number 1.
Definitely. This is a massive showing for the side of Team
Woo!
Evo. They were struggling in the early parts of the game, but they managed to claw back. The clawback started from Vincent. The second turtle pickup allows him to stay relevant into the game. Then Vince and the adaptations that you see coming out of Team Evo, they finally fully adapted. They metamorphosized in the middle of the game, knowing that they're going to be basically Nandes's punching bag. Punching bag, and they reformat how they're gonna have to play.
Yeah.
They basically kite back, wait for Nandes to go into the Ghost One because you're rest assured Nandes need to go into Ghost One to pull away attention from Luxenstein, and they entered for the counterplay, massive play coming off from Team Evil.
Dude, powerful, sought out where Nandes is, got into Ghost 4 and fist crack him to the wall, unable to get into the backline. That just cascaded the entire sequence of events for Evil to actually make a play. Very risky play from Vendo. I don't know if you noticed this, but the fair airstrike just to block him away from Luxenstein. He jumped over the wall, popped the Wind of Nature. Luxenstein was still heavily on him. Luxenstein, without a Wind of Nature, just got down, got decimated by that Bruno. So I think that was a huge play by Ven. Very risky, but high risk, high reward.
Yeah, high risk, high reward, right? I think this particular drop coming out from Team Evil is definitely high risk, high reward. Because don't forget, when you come into Badang and also Fanny, the anti-synergy doesn't really make sense.
It's kind of like a
awkward,
pseudo-ish, because it kind of works together. Because if you have a wall, you build a wall and you have a nice wall spam, it kind of works.
Yep.
But then it kind of disrupts your entire team's flow and momentum.
Exactly, and you've seen sometimes two or three instances where the powerful wall actually blocked the escape.
Powerful wall.
The powerful wall stopped the escape, and Evil also stopped King's Vanguard, basically adding a lot of chaos. And that's what Team Evil is. Chaos in team fights.
Man, I think they really showed themselves like right after the game, in the late stage of the game, because they knew what the ring condition is.
Definitely.
Powerful, especially so, carrying the entire game. To be honest though, like if he didn't lock down that Hanzo, I think it would be all over going to the hands of KGV.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at the statistics real quick. Ven with the MVP, 8-1-1, but in my eyes, it's definitely going to be powerful. Without that play, it wouldn't have transcended into what it is now.
Yeah, and also I think also have to give props where the side of Vincent. If you notice, Vincent went for the anti-Kuras as well because he knows the damage that potential the Hanzo can do. And apart from that, it's just also the amount of what Vincent is trying to maneuver around, going out against the flow powerful's wall to bypass his wall, and also to take note where Nandes is. He's also giving a lot of information. Hey, Nandes is coming. Please take note. Let's pull back a little bit. And when what you mentioned, when Van starts to pick up his items, just take a look. Heart's Claws, the Berserker's Fury goes into Mythic Gun. That's when he truly shines. That's when he can kick balls, and it damages the Ghost Form of Nandes over and over again.
But what went wrong in KGV? Because you have the Kimi with a lot of non-committal traction pulses. I think what happened, in my opinion, was KGV was too trigger go happy.
Yes.
Just using the skills when they can, as they can. Evil was just patiently waiting, saving all their skills and waiting for the right target.
Yep.
So I think that was the breakdown. I'm not sure what your opinion was.
I definitely agree. I would say in terms of Team Evil adapted along what King's Vanguard is trying to do. They're just basically waiting for Nandes's out.
Yeah.
Nandes's out is a little bit too trigger happy, like what you mentioned. That's how basically the cookie crumbles for the side of Team Evil. Team Evil adapted first, and King's Vanguard is unable, like what I mentioned, even though going to the mid parts of the game, that's where King's Vanguard has a lot more kill pressure. They're able to win these particular team fights. But we don't see any turret takedowns, right? We don't see any form of objective being secured apart from the turtle. Turtle can respawn. It just gives you a small little buff, but ultimately it's an excuse just to team fight.
Yeah.
Then after that, you go for the turrets, right? Evil, on the other hand, once they secure the second turret, immediately see, boom, Vince is down bottom lane.
Yeah, cycle,
Push this
cycle,
down bottom.
cycle.
Just constantly rotating, out-rotating King's Vanguard. And this is surprising. It's usually Team Evil that always get rotated, and now they're the ones out-rotating other teams.
I think they were really smart play, very smart from all the players from Team Evo. They know that they're in a tricky position, very, very challenging position, especially from the Hanzo. Sayla, the entire game was just a pacifist, can't even go out from his own turret. But the very fact of the matter is, KGV was unable to convert all the kills that they received, or all the kills that they got, into the main turret takedowns, main objectives. And I think one of the breakdown is that Super Ryan Bao was very sacrificial. Every single team fights, they go in first and they die first. So there wasn't any backline protection once the Evo goes down. It's just mainly the DPS going in and trying to take down all these objectives. And because the Fanny is there, and Fanny is super fast with the cables as well,
Mhm.
they're in a very tough spot.
Yeah, definitely right. And apart from that, Vincent, I think, is just doing a good show in terms of these objective takedowns.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, we're going into draft.
Oh no, go to the MVP of the
We're
game.
going to MVP of the game. Vincent as Fanny, or Fanny as Vincent.
Yeah, of course. Vincent as Fanny right now, but like what I mentioned earlier just now, we kind of build up to this one. Vincent's the target prioritization onto these objectives. He doesn't really need to kill. Usually we expect the Fanny to basically go and kill, but turns out this Vincent has been going out assassinating and killing objectives.